Good afternoon, Linda. Welcome to our show, Sadhana. And I wanted
to be here.
Thank you. I want to share a few things about what we do in this radio show. This radio show is exclusively for Indians, Indian community, and largely Telugu-speaking people. We are one of the Indian people who talk this language widely, but a lot of people our audience are distributed all over the world. That includes Middle East, United States, and China, and we get calls occasionally from Malaysia, countries like Mauritius also. So the listeners are all over the place, including even Australia actually. So this is a great benefit that you are on the call. We like to welcome you, and we really, really like to thank you for joining the call today.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And I want to introduce you to the audience in a way they understand. To everybody today with me on the show, Linda Ragsdale, the president of the Peace Dragon Foundation. She's a very unique person. She's very specialized. To explain this in Telugu, జీవితానికి ఒక లక్ష్యం ఉంది. జీవితానికి ఒక లక్ష్యాన్ని మించినటువంటి కృషి చేసి సాధన చేస్తేనే జీవితం అద్భుతంగా మారుతుంది అని నమ్మే వాళ్ళల్లో ఆవిడ ఒకరు. Linda, I was telling about you. I was praising how different you are and how you give a meaning and purpose to life. That's where I started. So as the program goes, they will know more about you. Let me start with one question. The key word seems to be in your mission. I know I'm on your website, the peacedragon.com, and I also read about you, I learned about you, I heard about you. Peace seems to be the key word you surround your life with. Please share your experience and your thoughts about peace.
Peace is the place, I think, and it is the word that I think that we need to come to know. And in my studies and travels and conversations, most people don't know how to define it. And so how can you bring something into your life if you don't know how to define the effects of what it can bring into your life? And for me, peace has been the foundation for me to experience everything and to come to understand the experiences that challenges us to be gifts in our lives, to come to understand that from this base, you never lose your balance. You come to be an observer of things that are around you so that you can come to understand it in your time and in your way and in such a manner that everything becomes a gift in your life, that no matter what event happens, everything is a gift for you.
So it looks like you're suggesting that people have to come to a foundation or a level of reaching the calmness or the peace so they can handle tough things in life. Does it make sense?
Yes. And exactly what I do mean. You have this foundation, and that foundation is peace. And it's for me, I've come to understand it as really a wholehearted sense of yourself. I know today mindfulness is a word that is thrown out, and it too has so varied a meaning to people that it doesn't always present itself. But for me, it's beyond the mindfulness. It is becoming heartful. And from this heartful, this wholehearted sense of living your life, wholehearted sense of loving yourself, every part of yourself, even the parts of me where I will lose my temper when I get into traffic, when someone does something that cuts me off, that I understand that is a part of me, and the awareness of that part of me is still worth loving, all of it, and therefore when I love all of it, I'm aware of all of it, I can address the issues that need to be addressed so that I truly become whole and heart. And so for me, it creates, right, that balance is based upon self-love, how you see yourself with love, and then you see the world with love. How you speak to yourself with love, and then you speak to the world with that same love. And how you make choices, right? If your heart is that compass, it makes choices that literally are inclusive of all. So they are heart choices, not only for you, but for the world. And that is the extension of that peace thought, that it really is coming wholeheartedly into this life. And like I said, when you do, everything is a gift. Everything is a gift. And you and I both know my story. So some of my gifts may not seem like gifts to other people, and yet they have been the most expansive opportunities to come, for me to know myself and to come to love the world more deeply.
Very beautiful. Actually, some of these things you mentioned are so, so powerful. Actually, even I like to listen to this conversation one more time. But there are key things every day that is happening. You highlighted something every listener can relate to. I'm sitting in the traffic is bad. People get frustrated. I try to do something, computer, it doesn't turn on. People get frustrated. So job, career, life, family, this world, everything is going into pieces. When world and life are in pieces, we are not able to find peace. So let me ask the question again, to get the technique of it. I'm trying to understand. You seem to have mastered the peace. You know, your work itself is a masterpiece itself.
Yes.
So how do we do it? Life is chaotic. Entropy of the universe increases. That's thermodynamics. That's the philosophy of science, world, physics. How do I cope up? How do I get the peace? How do you do it as a technique? What's the trick to do it? What is the secret of it?
Well, I think the secret of it is to know that at some point you will lose that peace, but in that lost moment, you will find the way to continue to hold that peace. So as I found that I was losing my peace and could write when I got into traffic, so I have a glass heart that hangs from my rearview mirror. So every time I step behind the wheel, I am reminded to be compassionate, not only to myself in driving, but to the other drivers, because I don't know what is going on in the other drivers, and I am, in sense, driving with myself in that traffic. And in that understanding, I have to remember that I don't know directions well. You know, it doesn't bother me. I like to know where I'm going, and you know, they have GPS that can help you, but that too can turn you around. So when you know that if someone cuts away, that perhaps they too are trying to remain true to the path that has been given to them, and they cut up in front of you, and I've done that, and I know that it's because that was where I was told to go, and I don't know where I'm going if I don't. But you know what? We hold in that space. I've been there. I wish you, a safe travel. We hold back. We start to understand that I too have been there. And if you pay close attention, when you have that awareness, in a day or two, you will be placed in that moment where you will make that choice. Do I cut off, or do I take a breath, make my way to the next exit, and turn back around? What do I do? And sometimes it isn't, we don't know if they have received information that a loved one is in a hospital and they're frantic. And in that moment, in that chaos, not taking that moment to say, the best thing I can do is breathe and go calmly forward. So we know that there are times when we have gotten into the car behind that wheel and there are something that has taken our balance. And so once again, we offer that experience for us to explore when we've been there and send compassion outward. And in the same point, today is a beautiful, glorious day, and I have the joy of looking out onto a lake with these sunbathing turtles who have their heads all up in the same direction, all praising the same light, all space, crowded out, stacked on top of this log and enjoying this beautiful day. and thinking, oh, I've got to get off at this exit, singing a song, whatever, right? We could be filled with joy. The other options don't have to be in there, but the other person could just be so filled with joy that all of a sudden they come back in this moment and realize that the exit was there. And I have found myself there as well. And so when we start to experience the chaos and understand and work it into our lives, that's when we begin to change it. And when we understand where the chaos seeps in and throws us off, and we address it, that awareness allows us to bring that compassion into our own space, but then also turn around and bring it outward.
Wow, that's an amazing thing. Actually, some of the points you made, I want to re-emphasize. That's beautiful. One of the things you mentioned is a small instant, like somebody cutting us off or trying to speed up in front of us in a car. And that can irritate the whole dam. And oh my God, how the hell you can do it? And people are speeding and putting their life at risk and everybody else's life at risk. Instead of doing things like that, the person can take a moment to understand the big picture. The big picture is missing for us. And everyone, many people on my radio show have questions. What is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to live life. That's the fundamental purpose of. Take a moment to live it. I like the words you said, including the turtles are looking at the sun. Trees are waiting for the sun. What happened to human beings? Why are we stuck in these small cubes and offices and busy saving money into the tiny little banks and the accounts and stuck in papers, paperwork, acquiring lands? There's a bigger purpose to life, right?
You know, and with living.
Oh my God. Can you repeat it again?
Right?
I want everyone to hear this. This is a new statement. Please say it again.
They confuse busyness with living.
What is the difference?
Well, in living, there is space. There is pause. There is the moments where you sit in the sun. When you go back and talk about the times in your life, right, it is those moments of joy. They're the times that you've laughed so hard, or you've been on vacations and you've seen amazing things, or did you see the sunset last night? Did you see this, right? Did you see the moon? Oh my gosh, it was golden and it tickled the tops of the trees. Did you see, right? It's those moments of life that are the valuable ones. We don't sit and talk joyously. Well, I sat at my desk for 12 hours today and did this and that, you know. No, that's not what we share. That's what we complain about. That's right, that I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Really, what is the doing?
Beautiful.
What is the living? And that's the difference between the doing and the living. Which have you clarified? What are you doing? Because there will be a time when you are confronted with the fact that your life will take a different direction. And the question is, are you doing or are you living?
Very nice. You mentioned there, you stopped at a very, very, very amazing point. The word you used is point of confrontation. Everyone in their life, I read somewhere, you can't be a kid anymore. You have to face life. That moment will come. Not many people can stand it. Many people fall at it, break at it, and they cannot handle it anymore. Such tough moments we all experience in our life. Now, Linda, when you're talking, there is something I have noticed. There is a sense of maturity. There is a sense of education and awareness towards life. What brought you there? I don't think it comes from the comforts and luxuries of richness. It comes from richness of experience. What great or tremendous or powerful experiences you had that brought you to this awareness, this mission?
You know, there becomes a point, like you say, where we have our children and we become these models for them. We become the models for all children. Adults are these universal models. And the question is, how do you wish to be seen in this? And when I delivered my third child, within 6 months I started to have these physical difficulties. And it began a 14-year journey of medical craziness I had to go through. I was diagnosed with an unknown autoimmune illness. So it changed every 5 years, and the drugs were more devastating than. But in each moment, what I had to do is look at these beautiful little faces that were so blessed in my life and say, what if you were to find out that you would have this disease that mom carries, and how would you know to live your life? And so in those moments, I knew that I had to show my children that all of my dreams were all achievable, that everything that I wanted to achieve, everything that they wanted to achieve in their lives was achievable and doable. We just would have to find the way that we would do it. It might not be the normal way. It might not be the way, the path that has been, paved before us. We might have to go off-road a bit, but no matter what, all of my dreams could come true, and they did. I started companies. I wrote books. I taught in schools. I lived my life fullest, and nothing, right? The disease did not define my life. I defined my life and kept for my children the knowledge that this will never change your life. This will never change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the choices that we have are always, how will I empower anything that comes into my life? And there was a moment where, you talk about the time where we do not grow up, right? We have to. Well, in this, there became a difference between the physical life that I had in my youth and in this new phase of my life. I could not carry the same physicality. So I took a picture of myself at the time when I had all that physical nature. I wrote myself a beautiful love note, and I took the love note, went out onto, at that point our house was on a ridge that overlooked a lake, and I burnt it. And I said goodbye to that body and embraced the new body that I was in, and grateful that I had this body to still be in, and looked for the ways to make it healthier, better, and comfortable for me. So you're right, we do, but there are things that we can do to help in those transitions. And I do have to say that I may have matured, but I live my life like a child. I look at everything with the wonderment of seeing it without a title, a name, or a judgment. I jump in puddles because I think you should. I think you should scribble with crayons and live in those joyous moments that you think you can't, because the only barrier that allows you to not visit those places is your own mind, is your own decision. And so I choose to not put up walls. I choose to define how to be, and that has carried me through. And so that was the first instant where, understanding this peace. The thing that was not causing me peace was me fighting with my own body, with me fighting who I was. And so the peace came in not only releasing who I wasn't any longer, but totally loving who I was. Because this incredible creature could still do anything and everything. It was just to find a way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There are very, very valuable suggestions again. As we grow through and as we go through life, we evolve mentally, but at the same time, the physical abilities are slowly diminishing. Hormones are acting, old age is coming, diseases are coming. We start becoming uncomfortable with ourselves that will turn into pain and stress. And you're giving a very nice solution and then a good way to handle that. Here is something I want to ask. You stopped at again, another beautiful point. The kid. You're trying to discover the kid and little kid in you, the divine child within you that's so wonderful. And your mission, as I can see, is also peace and dragon. Can you tell me about your love towards the kids and your mission towards the kids? Because peace and dragon. Peace is a loving thing. Dragon is a fierce thing. Scary thing with fire. How do you the dragon is nothing but light, as you see it. The light itself is a dragon. How do you tame the dragon of light with fire and feed it peace? How do you do that? For kids especially, to everyone.
So if we come to understand that within us is this flame, this passion, right? That there is this passion. And you and I have a mutual friend, Radha. We talked about this passion because we had talked about the ability of this passion. But within us, there is this fire, this flame. And when flame and that fire, you create great things with it. It becomes the fuel to move your passion ahead, and it becomes the fuel that when you hit those spots where you have to, go uphill or you have to go through the walls, that you have the ability to keep that flame fed, to keep that passion going. But an erratic flame will burn out of control, and it will cause more damage and more trauma in life for those who don't know how to control that flame, where if you lose your temper. Well, if we take a moment and go back into that car scene, when you're in your car and you are sitting there screaming at the other driver, and, the only person who is being affected is you. The other driver's gone ahead. There's no communication unless you have, made some signal. But even so, the fire stays with you, and then you have that fire that now has offset your day, but you could get on your phone and call somebody else and start yelling at them and saying, this person started this, and then you've started the fire in them, and then you can start this fire if there are people in the car with you. You've disrupted their day too as well, and now they're like, please just stop this. We're, it's crazy. It's insane with you. So when we take that idea of that fire and we learn that it is this incredible source to do great things, when we learn that it is a power that is solely within us, that we can control and that we need to have lit. We touched very briefly about, being busy or living. There are people who have let their flame become so low that that's what they do. They get up, they go to work, they go home. They get up, they go to work, they go home. They get up, they go home, right? And then during the weekends or the time that they take their break, they do nothing because that flame, that passion, they're not feeding it. They're not holding it dear. They're not nurturing it. And that is something that does need to be nurtured. So when we look at the dragon, right, we understand that that flame, in that sense of just the dragon, it is that raw, pure energy that is moldable. And when you put peace in front of it, you help define it. So for me, I have children, when I ask them, what do you think of when they think of dragon? And immediately they say fiery and destructive and scaly. And, I'll throw the word peace out there and they don't have a word for it. They don't know. They'll put their hands up in the peace sign. They'll say a dove, but they don't know. So I'll say, what is the color of peace? And everyone will say all different colors, and I say, that's great, because now you know that peace comes in different colors for everyone. If peace were a song, who would be singing it? And everyone tells, their favorite artist, and they yell, and they tell me because they want to hear who they, would be singing this peace song to the world. And we know that every other, right, person has someone different, and there is a chorus of voices that create peace, not only within ourselves, but within the world. And then I'll say, what's the favorite, food? If peace were a food, that there's an association to that is when they start to understand what the peace is to them in those sensory perceptions, they can now start to put together why peace should always be that balance before the dragon. And that at some point, peace doesn't have to be there, because then the dragon knows that they have that fire, but they do not have to use it in the sense of the fire or the destruction. They know how to use it to be the light when it becomes dark. They use that fire to warm people when they're cold. They use that fire to cook food, to share a meal together. That this becomes the ultimate gift of what we have, this passion. So in my work, I work with children because as adults, I see that there is some staid positioning in how they think, but with children, we can present this ability for them to understand choice, that I choose. I own this choice. I own the consequences of these choices, but I learn how to live wholeheartedly. I learn. And the first thing to do is see themselves with love, to see themselves as this peace dragon, not as the bad, destructive evil, because when we're little, we do have that chaos within us. And that chaos can be great when it's honed to do great things.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
in my joy, what I do is I work with children and plant these seeds of ideas that you can choose how you wish to address and see things. And I build them up to see themselves with love. And I'll ask everyone out there today, how many of you woke up this morning, looked at yourself in the mirror, and kissed yourself, said, you're awesome, you are fabulous, you've got this? And we don't. The first thing we do, we get up is, oh, look at these lines. Oh, I say, look at my hair. Oh, look at this belly. Look at, we don't love on ourselves. And we're the first person we see, so we should certainly love ourselves. We should certainly speak to ourselves lovingly in the morning. And if it is the decision that we're going to do, when we decide that we're going to be something and we follow it, in the next breath, we decide to re-energize that thought and keep going. I won't eat so much chocolate today. Oh, they offered the chocolate cake at the office. You know what? I'll eat less tomorrow. But today I'll enjoy and I'll take this breath and I won't beat myself up. I won't tell myself I'm awful. I won't say these things. I will love myself and allow myself in this next breath to re-energize and redirect my forces again. That there is no reason to weigh ourselves down with our own self-hatred, because that indeed is something that will boil and spoil within ourselves and come out. So I help children learn to love the fire within them. I help children learn to build up their heart shield, because the heart shield allows them to love their whole selves. But when hateful things come their way, it deflects them. But it doesn't send that hatred or those comment that toxicity exists within the other person. So for me, it becomes the way for children to come to love themselves and embrace themselves and balance with the education systems that we have. But this is their heart education. This is their love education. And it starts with learning how to love yourself so that you then can love others. It starts to talk lovingly to yourself so you can talk lovingly to others. And it talks about making choices that you'll make bad ones, but you will learn from them, and then you will go forward. And that is the expansion moment of when we see each other as humans with all of our foibles and still love. Still love.
Wonderful. I want to talk to you about different colors of dragons, but I want to talk about two dragons today. We'll talk about more dragons. Probably we need one more show with you. But, first one is the red dragon. The red dangerous dragon is things we are afraid of in life. I know, Linda, you were in India right when the terrorist attacks happened. And you faced the red dragon right head-on collision, like directly right there. You met the terrorists and the attackers, and you were right there in 2008 in Mumbai, and you survived it. My first question is, how did you handle that dragon? I'll talk about the second black dragon later, but I'm very curious. It is not an easy encounter, and people go through trauma, fear, and danger, and all those things. How did you go through that? How do you handle that? What happened?
Well, we were in the Tiffin restaurant, and after the first barrage of bullets that came through the restaurant, we were one of the tables way far in the back, very close to the kitchen. And in that moment, all of us at our table were still alive. And to our dismay, the gunfire started up again, and we realized that the gunmen were now entering into the restaurant and executing any survivors. And one of our friends, Alan Scher, told us to put our heads down and play dead. And I couldn't. I I had to understand what was coming my way. I had to understand who, right, what beast, what monster could be coming into a place that moments ago was filled with the lovely din and chatter and, errant laughter that breaks up an evening's dinner. And how could you walk in with guns in this place? This was not a war zone. This was not a place of conflict. This was just joyful people.
Correct.
And I had to see this because it did not, right, I needed to see could not be human. In my head, I had already decided that it could not possibly be human. The way that I was like my friend, Michael from Canada could not get under the table, so I laid my body over him. And I was facing one of the amazing, beautiful marble columns in the restaurant, and it was like a mirror. And I knew that I would see the monster turn the corner, and I would, in my head, I thought I could put my head down before he could possibly see me. And so I waited as the gunfire got closer. I waited for this monster. When the barrel of the gun crossed that marble frame and this young boy stepped out into view,
so it's a young boy who's a terrorist.
It was a young boy. It was a young boy. And you have to understand, I saw my son in his face. I had a son who was 20 years old, and I could see in this child's face my son. I saw the way, they're babies and their faces change, and he had that young man's face, not the one that's just before the adult that becomes really cut, but that just newly young man. And the young girl that was under the table, Naomi Sher, who was 13, was the same age as my daughter. For all intents and purposes, these were family. And so when that young boy crossed that frame and I saw him, my heart broke because indeed he was not a monster, he was this child. So when I faced this red dragon, right, as you say, this was the child. So in facing this fear and facing this monster, I saw him, but the greatest exchange, right, so when I put my head down, and I realized by the posturing of how that child was walking, I realized how he was going through the restaurant, that he was scared, that whatever he thought he was doing, he was not there anymore, that he was not a part of this, and the horror of his own. And I realized that his directive was to kill the monsters in his life, and that I was that monster. So if we are looking for red devils, red dragons, we will find them because we are looking for them. But when we look for the humanity within ourselves, then the greater question becomes, how did I not have you sitting at dinner with us, young man? Why were you not in this conversation? The question becomes, how did I let somebody give you a steady diet of hate instead of love that would allow you to come in and do this? How did your heart and your mind get so separated that you could not see with your heart that this was not right, that this was not human? And how did your mind become so twisted and locked in dark, so twisted and locked in this red dragon that you could not see your own human self? Hide in fear or run. When you start to take that space that we talk about, that peaceful space, we look for the complete story, which is 360 degrees of understanding. And even though he sat with holding the gun and I was at the other end of the barrel, each of us has a story. And for the picture to be understood, we have to know each other's story and all the stories in between that connect us. And we will never know that young boy's story because, he died there that night. But from my knowledge, I took ownership that I should be teaching love better than other people are teaching hate.
So the solution to terrorism is peace and feeding the dragon with the biscuits of peace and love of peace. Feeding the milk to the dragon is the only way to reduce its fierceness then.
We cannot, right? We have to know the stories. We have to know the disassembling of the human heart to understand where the terrorist lives. So we cannot be afraid of that den. We have to be aggressive in trying to understand it, because that's the only way I think that we can disentangle it.
Yes, very nice. I have one question before I go to the black dragon. What do you think of work of Malala, who is spreading education in those dragon kind of regions and kind of dangerous places? There are girls, there are women, they're fighting, and there's a lot of chaotic situation there, and there is a need for education. What do you think of work in that area?
I think that any time that someone stands up for educating everyone, because education is the greatest tool we can give to keeping your heart and your mind connected with most of your thoughts, keeping your heart as the compass to your decision makers. Education is what does that. I find her to be so brave and so courageous to go out and rally others to come and open these doors for all of our children. I think that that is vastly important, but also to opening the doors for the power of women as a co-partner in this world, that we are the balance to the male, and that is why the sexes exist as the balance. So when you exclude one, you have imbalance. So the efforts that she's making to try and create a balanced world, I have to applaud and say, if I could be there with you, I would join you in a minute, because I think that these are the joined voices of everyone who are making these efforts. And unfortunately, she became this great spokesperson because, again, of tragedy. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could change the world, that a voice could be heard for the purity of the voice for change, rather than having these scars that attach? You know, the bullet that went through me went through nearly a third, and through my life, this scar acts as a beautiful reminder to people that I walked out of, well, I didn't walk out, but I came out of this experience choosing love over hate. It's the same experience, right? It's the experience in the car. Do you choose to yell at that other person, or do you choose to hold your peace and understand and find compassion and find a way to not get hit by these drivers? And how do we, I will never forget leaving that restaurant that night. We made it into the kitchen, and then the terrorists came back a third time with bombs, and they were bombing the foyer, and we were led out by these beautiful, courageous, the captain of the restaurant and 2 day workers in the kitchen. They led us out, and it was one doorway, right? So when you walk out of your office today and you walk through that one doorway, that was the distance that I walked from that chaos, that war scene, into the most beautiful starry night. Beautiful, silent, starry night. And I got lost in that night, so they had to force me in the cab because it was so beautiful. And there again is the universal question: where will you live? Will you live in that moment that's past, or will you take my beautiful night? Will you keep the stars?
The gift of life touched death. You understood the value of life. So, but every day we are dying. Every day we are being ridiculed in this world. Every day we are being put through so many problems. People need to learn to admire and appreciate the gift of life. Don't you think so?
Just exactly what you were saying. Are you living more than you're dying? Wouldn't that be fair, right? When you're looking at your scale, are you living more than you are dying? Are you busy more than you are living? What are you choosing? Are you complaining more about the day, or are you looking for that sunset? So yes, we choose.
From the red dragon, the bullet wound of the terrorist attack in Mumbai, I want to take you to another dimension. A person may be having one problem and could be having self-pity all their life and could be dying every day and depressed and complaining about things. On the other hand, there you are. You also had another black dragon, your health. I assumed and I read some of the things that you were then encountered some of the worst nightmares, which is called the malady of all diseases or something like that. There's a name for cancer. So most dangerous, most harmful thing. What happened and how did you encounter that? How did you really attack it, and how did you tame that dragon?
Well, when we look at the past of what I'd been through, and it came, I had literally, right, it was going to be the stellar year for the Peace Dragon. I had been teaching peace. I'd drawn peace dragons with over 23,000 children. I've taught peace to over 30,000 students of all ages. And the year for me last year was to be, I was coming home from Japan. I was packing to go back to Beijing. There I was teaching students who we were taking to Guatemala, who would then they would teach peace there, then was coming home, going to Mexico and speaking there, and then I was coming back to Japan and speaking there again, and then going off to Kuala Lumpur, and I was doing more, right? It was the year for everything that I had been working for in the year of flight, and the one thing I had to do was get my yearly exam, and, they said you have breast cancer, and that in itself, right? So you have to look at that word. Once again, that word is, what is it? How do you empower that? And the thing was, it was nothing, because there was my luggage, right, in the hallway. It hadn't been unpacked, and it was the proof that this cancer was in me, and yet I was working 10-hour days, loving every moment of my life, thoroughly enjoying every bit, right, all of it. So what difference does that word make? What was the difference between the one day that I didn't know I had it and the one day that this word comes into my life? And the answer is nothing, unless I empower that word to cripple me. And it is not choices within it that I had to make, and they were not fun choices. But when I go back and look at it, when we look at the trinity of life, and we talk about, what did I do? I was busy doing what I loved. So in that sense, spiritually, I was connected, totally balanced, right? So when we look at mind and spirit and body, I had been doing so much, but not paying attention to my health and monitoring it and coming, because I was so caught up with what I was doing, right? Even I was busy of what I say of others, the busyness of what I was doing, though it was joyous and I thought I was making a change in the world, the change was also occurring within me, and I needed to allow myself the grace of saying, here's where we are. Your beautiful body who has taken you this far, we now will deal with this with compassion for the part of your body that is yelling out like the angry child. We don't hate that part of our body. We don't. We allow it to go through us. So for me, the fight did not occur because it wasn't a fight. It was a part of something within me. I needed to release it. And so I did all of the steps. And because I wanted people to be on a journey of what my choice was, which was to live with joy through every challenge, to not let this be any different to me. So when I started to lose my hair, I cut a peace dragon on my head, and I wrote a lovely poem that told everyone to, what was it? Here there be dragons where there used to be hair, the land's unlocked, the landscape now bare. Brave knights and princesses, to hold in respect that there are people going through this challenge, but to make sure you take time to pause and So then when I lost my eyebrows, I painted a caterpillar and glued googly eyes and a leaf, and I showed people that this is where I am, but I'm going to laugh because look at this great paint palette that I have. My whole forehead becomes this canvas that I can do fun and wonderful things with. And my bald hair was a blessing because in the heat in our summers here in Nashville, it can be very obtrusive, but here I was bald and loving it and telling bald stories because the choice through this journey still offers you the ability to choose joy. It still does. It means that every breath is just as precious all the way through. And we have to help people choose that because media and other things make you think that this is, that the door is closing on you and now you have to face all those things. No. The choice is that you live every moment with the same vigor and joy that you want to live with. You don't allow those words to do that. My heart sent back that word cancer and said, not me, not me. I choose to be happy and to show others that we can choose a different path through this, that we do not have to be. And I did not go through pain issues. I did not have, I had some minor ones, but the gifts of cancer to me in walking me deeper into what I teach, the gifts of understanding when someone turned their back on me. You can tell I love to talk and I love to teach. And so when someone turned their back on me because I was bald,
wow.
And we can't fault them because we don't know. But I talk about what happens when we let anyone become invisible. I talk about the desolation, and I was given the ability to walk in those footsteps.
Wow.
That was a gift of cancer, and the awareness of knowing that and seeing that and going to my car and crying because there are so many people out there who just want to be seen. There are people out there who just want to be smiled at. That's how simple it is to say, I see you. That when we go to a window and someone serves us, that we thank them. And we tell them that we like their hair. And my gosh, you have the most beautiful smile or eyes. That we say, I see you. I see you.
Wow.
And in that, right, so there were great gifts in cancer. And I find the joy in being aware enough to see those gifts when they were given to me.
You're really reminding us what we take for granted. This is wonderful reminder of life and what we have. It's not the external assets. It's internal, the confidence from the heart, the appreciation of beauty, and the body and the mind, the eyes, and the love for appreciating the creation that's missing in this world. Thanks for reminding us.
It's our choice, right? We can always choose love. We can always choose love. It is always there as the option. And more so choosing it for ourselves, because I think that's where the systematic breakdown happens, that so many of us are not in love with us.
Exactly.
We don't wake up and give ourselves that hug. Hug yourself tomorrow morning. Hug yourself. Give yourself that hug and let it resonate with every cell within your body. And the joy that will start your day off, you can sustain it throughout the day by just doing the same thing. Just going and giving yourself that hug and reminding yourself that you choose, you own, you have this passion, you are worthy, you matter in this world. And we do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get passionate about it.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. I want to close this with one question. With all the fights of the dragons, we really like to hear, one admirable thing is you won the award for the designs and you won recognition in different countries. Please tell us about your success too. What made you proud and what difference and how many thousands of kids you made a difference and about the work and how we can help. If you can share that, we all will be very, very delighted.
Well, I think, we have 2 children's books that are coming out, and we'll be starting a virtual library of stories that everyone can share, because I want people to be able to bring these stories in and start the conversations of how we can create change. I'm going to go a step back one, right? The first thing, get up and love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Get up and love yourself in the morning. Get up and really start to be comfortable with all of it. List the things, all the things that you love about yourself, and list the things that you think, right, that you're trying to hide. List that temper, right? List that sometimes you sneak more chocolate, or list those things, and learn to love those. And learn that when you become aware of those, then you become in control of them. Because when you let them hide in the shadows, that's when they pop out at you and throw you off balance. So when you learn to love your whole self, that love will have nowhere to go but out and into this world. So the first thing is love yourself. Truly, truly come to learn how to love every part of yourself, and the things that you don't like about yourself, love yourself enough to start changing them. In the awareness of what it is, start to change them. You have the power to control who and what you are and what you will be in this world. So use that power. Use that power. I like people to start thinking about their words. One of the first picture books out in the Peace Dragon series is called Words.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ideas that it says, call yourself hero for making someone else feel strong. And the idea is when we see these people who are invisible, when we see people who we know are hurting, or that you come to their aid with a kind little, right, a small gift, a small smile, that we start seeing everyone and letting them know that it will be okay, that we can be the small voice that says, hold on, you'll get through this.
Wow.
I have, on the Peace Dragon website, there is a free little app, and you can send one of the baby Peace Dragons. I went back to Mumbai in 2010 for the 2-year memorial, and we brought 500 Peace Dragons from children drawn in the United States, and they drew, in turn, the children in India sent back to the children in the United States their dragons, and they were messages of peace on the back, and it was this beautiful exchange of art in all its glory from children to children, and a Peace Dragon is drawn with empty hands. And you can, and I'm just getting them reposted, but we've made some upgrades on the site. But there will be Peace Dragons there, and you can draw Peace Dragons with your children, with yourself, and think of the gift that you would like to see brought to this world. Because the connection of that is to the passion within you. If you think that there is food that needs to be given to those who don't have food, then find a way to be a part of that. Find a way to have a dinner party at your home. I call them peace meals. Have a dinner party at your house and have everybody bring a bag of food that can be donated to shelters. Have everyone bring their old shoes so that people who are coming back out into the world to try and get jobs from either being incarcerated or from leaving abusive situations or whatever, that you find a way that in your small group of friends that you share your charity, share your time. We find ourselves so busy to not get together. Why not throw something that does everything, that you get to share a great time with your friends and talk about how you can do great things together? What can you do? Because the smallest changes make the biggest waves. But on the website, there's a little bitty card, and you go on there, and it says, use your words nicely. And you can send a nice message to everyone. You can type in your own message. You can send one that's already in there, but the little card will go to the person, and they'll open it up. The card opens up, and then it closes. And if you hold on and wait, the dragon will wink. But send nice words out, right? That's the first start. Let's start sending out a wave of brilliant, loving, kind words.
Is it on this website, thepeacedragon.com?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. I'm already on the website. It's so lovely and very well done. This is so beautiful. I would request everybody, all the listeners, to try the website, thepeacedragon.com. And if you have any questions, there's a contact there. You can contact Linda. You can ask questions. You share experiences. This is amazing. This is amazing interface. I like it. Very, very, very beautiful. I like the dragons dancing and also writing there. I like it. And especially I like the class act dragon right there. I like it.
Well, it's so fun to see those too. And I just got back from doing a class in New York, and a teacher came up to me, and this is there was a beautiful sign that I saw when I went back to Mumbai, And it was at, and I'm going to forget the name. It's over 50 years now that this mother started this school for handicapped children, Vajakil. And in there's a beautiful banner, and it says, "If I can't learn the way you teach, will you teach me the way I can learn?" And I had gone to teach the children how to draw the peace dragons, and I do it with letters and punctuation marks, so it's everything they already know. From the first time they picked up their pencils, they know all of these lines and strokes. And so when they put them together, it becomes this dragon. And she came and showed me a perfectly drawn dragon, beautiful dragon. And then she opened up a journal. And you couldn't read the writing from the child. You could not read the handwriting. You could not read the ideas or anything else. And yet he drew a perfect dragon. So there we know that he sees things differently. So how can we learn to reach him and let his words become that art?
Very good.
So, right? So it's very exciting. I love drawing the dragons because I love seeing what everyone brings as their gifts too. I love seeing what children connect with.
Very nice. This is amazing. Thank you. And especially,
Thank you.
Visiting these countries, and most of the countries you mentioned, I have been there, and you can see in many, many people's lives, stress in their faces, unhappiness in trains, uncomfortableness in the flights, and queuing up people for survival. Despite all these things, kids playing peacefully, and wherever they are, living in the moment. I think we need to go back to that innocence, This is something beautiful takeaway from my, conversation today. But, Linda, we want to call you again. I think more shows and more sharing of this kind of beautiful knowledge and the spiritual essence of life, Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. You want to say something to the listeners?
I just want to say love. I think that's good. Love and peace.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. Thank you very much. Best wishes
Thank you so much.
on your journey, the great journey, and the real saints are people who make a difference to other people's lives. And we wish you good luck to your saintly life, and best wishes from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace
Bye.
in. Bye.